Welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. And this week, I'm interviewing a guy named Mark and a guy named Russell. That's not going to get confusing for me at all! Cue the music! Hello there, capers, and as I said, welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. My name's Scott James Merridew, and this is the show where we talk about various geek and nerd-related topics, and I'm joined each week by a very special different guest. My guests today are Russell Mark Olsen and Mark Hughes, a.k.a. Sock. How you guys doing?
Yeah, good, man.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Glad to hear it. Now, so the capers at home don't get confused. Who is Sock?
I am. Is that what you needed? Just the
Literally just that,
the
so we can
sound.
identify you by your voice alone.
Okay,
He's,
that's me.
he's the surly Welsh one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if he lives in Wales, I'd be surly too.
Oh, snap!
Hey, damn, son.
I have stories about Wales, and they're not good ones. I did the Duke of Edinburgh Award in Wales, and I have the physical and mental scars to prove
Oh
it.
yeah, that's tough. Where'd you do that? In Brecon?
I did it in Brecons and the Black Mountains.
Yeah, tough up there, boys.
And Snowdonia, now that I think about it as well.
Yeah.
Oh god. So, you know what? Before we even talk about SKRAWL and you guys and all the magnificent work you do, I'm gonna have a little rant about Duke and the Duke of Edinburgh Award in fucking Wales. So, when we did it, the first time I ever did it, it was silver, and it was in the Black Mountains, and it was fucking tough.
Yeah.
But the next time we did it in Brecon Beacons, which, incidentally, for those of you at home, is where the fucking SAS train, most elite fighting force in the entire world, and that's where they do their business.
Yeah, man.
But anyway, it was the first day. It was Duke of Edinburgh Gold, and I was walking along in Brecon Beacons, and you know what? The sun was shining. The birds were twittering. I was feeling pretty good for myself. I'd always struggled with the Duke of Edinburgh, with hiking up and down mountains and such, and across field and over dale. But you know what? I felt pretty good about myself, and the entire group did. And as I was walking, I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe I'm turning a corner. Maybe actually, for once, I'm actually going to be really good at this, or indeed anything. I was filled with positivity and joy, and it lasted the entire first day. We got to the campsite. We made camp, we got everything set up, and I felt great. I didn't feel tired, I didn't feel exhausted, I didn't feel in pain, I hadn't got any blisters as far as I was aware. I was great. So I thought, you know what? Now we've got everything set up, I'm going to take off my shoes and relax. I took off my shoes. One of the people who was in my group screamed. I said, well, what's going on? Look at your feet! My feet were covered in blood.
Oh wow.
No.
I indeed had got a blister. It had burst and rubbed my fucking heel raw.
Oh,
I tell you what, I did not feel good the next day.
oh man. Yeah, I
No,
bet.
And I've chosen to decisively blame that entirely on Wales and not the fact that I didn't break in my boots beforehand.
Ah well, you live and learn. Did it?
Yeah,
Was it dry the next day?
It was
did-
not. In
did it
fact, that
stay
was when the
dry?
weather said, you know what, you had your nice day.
Yeah. That's
God, it
that's
was.
that's
In
typical.
fact, yeah. In fact, I think that was when. No, it was this next expedition, the last expedition I had in Snowdonia, where we had to walk up a mountain in the middle of like a tail end of a tropical hurricane that had come off the Atlantic,
Nice. Yeah.
soaked to
Christ,
the
Christ,
fucking
Christ, so he come re.
bone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here's though, I can't really complain because the worst weather I'd ever had, and I've talked about this on the show before, was in Scotland, a nation that I actually love and I have roots in, and where I was on a film shoot for 2 days, all exterior scenes, and we had, I guess the only way to say it is, every weather phenomena known to man bar tsunamis. We had a plague of fucking locusts at one point. I am not joking. Don't think that I am. We had to cocoon ourselves in our coats so we didn't get eaten alive.
Wow.
Wow, indeed.
So British weather rant aside, we're going to talk about SKRAWL in just a moment. But before we do, I want to talk about you guys. Who are you? What do you do? Justify yourselves before me. What are your scrawlifications, if you will?
Oh, good one. We're gonna have to write that down, Sock.
Scrollifications.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that'll be part of the Scrawlcavist's job. Yeah. Okay. So, Sock, do you want to go first?
I don't mind. It won't take but a second.
All right, go for it.
Yeah. My name is Mark, also known as Sock, which stands for the son of Ken. As you can imagine, my dad's name was Ken.
What?
Yeah. I've always drawn, always been into comics. Kind of took a bit of a leap about 10 years ago when I met Pete, this Pete Taylor, and we started a local group from the comic shop that I worked in at the time.
This is in Swansea, right?
Yeah, in Swansea, in Wales. And we started a group for kind of like-minded people who wanted to create comics, but weren't really part of a team or had parts of comics that they'd created but never got around to finishing them. So we started a comics collective called the Swansea Comics Collective originally. And it's still running now. It's quiet, but it's still running.
Everything's quiet right now, though.
Yeah, it's been quiet for a few years because few of the guys actually ended up getting really good jobs and moving. One of them went to work for Lego. One of them went to do some special effects course in London. I think he worked on the last Star Wars movie. So
are we happy about that, or are we angry about that?
No, I'm really happy for them. They worked really hard to get the jobs. So
I meant in terms of like working on a Star Wars film. Like, is he happy about that? Is he angry about that?
Yeah, he's over the moon about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a great creator actually. Some of his special effects stuff is amazing, and he makes like what do you call them? Like this 3D models using like ZBrush and stuff. And then he molds them. Then he prints them out and makes molds of them. He's done the swamp thing he's made. It'll blow your mind. I'm absolutely gobsmacked. DC wouldn't pick it up. It's incredible.
Wow. Man, I gotta see some of this.
Yeah, I'll show you. It's I think his Instagram name is his name's Lee. I think his Instagram name is Leanderthal.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's got a number on it or something like that, but it's if you type in Leanderthal, you're bound to see it. He's got like a whole bunch of 3D models and stuff on there. But
cool.
Yeah, some amazing stuff he's created.
All right, so now Russell, tell us a bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do?
Sure. So my name is Russell Mark Olsen. I'm a cartoonist. I wrote the series Gateway City, which I launched that back in 2016 and then collected it in 2018. Then I went on to do Lady Hollywood, the first two issues of that through Cult Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done a couple other things like Black Iris, which is sort of a film and a book, which is based off of some Kickstarter drawings I did. And then recently launched, last month, the Kickstarter for Ditch Angels, which is like a love letter to film noir. Like it's just these sort of 48 illustrations of films that don't exist. And now we're running SKRAWL, which is like this sort of combination of some ideas that like myself and Mark or Sock here and the other scrollers have been bouncing back and forth for about a year now. And it felt like, okay, we're kind of at a point now where it's time to get it out into the wild. No, I was just gonna say, and probably just for context, because it's sort of UK based stuff. I'm a Yankee, but I'm over here in the UK. I have been for about 12 years.
Yeah, because I noticed your accent, if I may say, is pretty mixed. It sounds like a combination of both American and English.
Yeah, I've been here for a long time, and I still think I sound like a hick, but everybody in the States thinks I sound like I'm from the UK, and everyone from the UK thinks I'm Canadian, which...
No, I think you sound like a hick.
Thank you, Mom. I appreciate it. I mean, I am a hick, so I feel bad if I have some sort of hoity-toity English accent going on. I'll have to do that to pull up the twang a bit and get right back down to my roots.
As a man who has his own problems with his accent, I feel your pain.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough holding on to like one sort of like your regional accents when you're moving around a lot.
It's even harder when you moved around so much in your formative years that you don't have a regional accent. You just have this monstrosity that could be straight from the BBC archives.
Right, that's not a bad thing though.
It is for me, because everyone thought I was much posher than I actually am growing up.
Oh, right.
Like, I'm not going to say that I grew up in some, like, rough places, but it didn't help matters. I'll say that much. But anyway, we're going to talk about SKRAWL in just a minute. But before we do that, we have got to get onto the news. So, the big news this week has been the news that Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko, if I get those names right, I probably haven't, have left the new Avatar live-action remake project with Netflix, citing stressful and unsupportive and creatively limiting work environments set up by Netflix. Have you guys heard about this?
No.
I did read that. Yeah,
It's
people think I'm not a huge fan of Avatar. I've seen a couple episodes, so I can like I
Oh,
know.
right, hang on. You're not talking about the big blue guys. You're talking about the Last Airbender, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah, I read it.
yeah, we don't mention the big blue guys around here. That's not a favorite of mine. But
Right.
so it's oh god, it's not the first time Netflix have caused a bit of a scandal with this sort of thing. A couple of episodes.
Well, this feels quite par for the course for any adaptation of one medium into another.
But here's the thing, though. Netflix publicly promised the creators of Avatar a supportive environment for them to fulfill their creative vision. They said, we are 100% going to help you guys do that. They said it out loud and proud. And then the second doors were closed, they said, actually, no, we're not going to do that. And you're right, that is sort of par for the course when it comes to studios. But the whole you do what we tell you to do mentality is sort of an open secret, but it's not something that a lot of studios these days, at least not in my experience, tend to go against publicly. So when they do go against it publicly, and it turns out that it's business as usual, it can cause a bit of a stir, especially when you are causing the creators of one of the most beloved animated TV shows of all time to leave the project. Like, that's not going to make you any friends, Netflix. No one is siding with you on this.
No, it is tough, and I feel, and they mentioned it in their tweets. I feel bad for the people that they've hired on who they trusted and trusted them, because I reckon the fans will probably react pretty poorly to the final product, and that means that there are a lot of probably very good creatives who whose work won't be celebrated like it would be if it was free of scandal.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just you hire these guys who created one of the most successful animated franchises in recent years, and you say you want to help them to do their thing, and then you don't. Okay, that's fine. But here's the thing. When is creatively happening those kinds of people with this kind of franchise behind them ever worked out well for anyone? I really don't get why studios in this day and age aren't getting the message anymore, because the fandoms for these sort of things have exploded in recent years. And I'm not saying that every aspect of this sort of fan culture is good and positive. It's definitely not Star Wars. But I mean, what did they think was going to happen? What Netflix? What did you think was going to happen? Oh, we created such a negative working environment for these guys that they left. People will love us for that, right? No. I know that wasn't their mindset, because that's an incredibly naive mindset. It's exaggerated, for the purposes of a joke saying that. But I don't get it, because here's the thing: Nickelodeon, I'm assuming, when they first signed these guys on, when they had those guys and that other guy, Aaron Erhatz, can't remember if that's how you say his name, we got them on to do the original show. They probably looked over their shoulders every once in a while just to check the work, saying, maybe don't do this or maybe don't do that. But for the most part, they probably just let them get on and make the show. And that's why the show was so great. And
what was a great show.
It was fantastic. And
loved it. I even enjoyed the Ang Lee movie. I got to be honest, and I'm not ashamed to say it.
The Ang Lee movie.
Yeah, wasn't it Ang Lee that made?
Oh, no, it was in that Shyamalan.
The Last Airbender.
No,
it was Shyamalan, not Ang Lee. Shyamalan. Yeah. Shyamalan ding dong.
No, Ang Lee actually knows what he's doing most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed the Shalambadam one. It was all right.
You're entitled to like it.
I thought it was all right.
I'm not going to talk about that movie. I'm not going to talk about that movie.
I still love Affleck's Daredevil, so you know.
Oh right, yeah. That's a good measure of somebody's taste right there.
What are you gonna do with that?
I like the director's cut, and that's all I'll say. Anyway,
the director's cut's amazing.
It has Coolio in it.
Yeah, boy, that's all you need. Now, if they had Coolio in the Airbender, what?
Maybe that's why they left the project. Maybe Coolio or bust.
Dim Coolio. Yeah.
We want Coolio to be Prince Zuko, or we walk.
Yeah, that's it.
It always comes down to, I think, old guys around a boardroom table.
Yeah.
Who think that that their 40 years of business means that they have the authority to just sort of clock younger creatives on the head. This is not the first time we've seen the story. It's not the last time we're going to see the story. It's just a shame for the creatives to get caught in the middle, and the fans who wind up getting really excited about something, being promised something, and then a company delivers something else.
Yeah, because I mean, it's such a weird turnaround, because it wasn't that long ago this was announced, and it's picked up even more traction now that Avatar: The Last Airbender has been released on Netflix. And it was like, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. It'd be so cool to do it justice in live action. This will be amazing. Then this happened a couple of days ago, and it's suddenly just complete 180 turnaround. Well, that's it. I'm not even going to bother watching. Let's be honest, a lot of people are going to still check it out. I'm probably going to check it out just because.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
100%.
But it's been a lot of turnaround, and honestly, there's been such a backlash. I wouldn't be surprised if Netflix made an offer for those guys to come back. I doubt they'd accept, but I wouldn't be surprised if they said, "Please come back. We're sorry. We didn't mean it, baby. You know I love you."
Yeah. And the other thing to bear in mind is that the movie does exist, which means that something it's not that long or not that far away until another iteration of this comes to fruition. So this will happen. Give it 10 years, another version will come out.
Yeah, you just got to sort of accept it, and that's fine. And I will judge that for its own merits when it does come out. The other bit of news I want to talk about before we start talking about SKRAWL is I got the chance, I don't know if you guys got the chance, to play the Square Enix's Marvel's Avengers beta this weekend.
Well, I only downloaded it yesterday.
No, but I've watched a couple of videos.
It's, Sock, what did you think?
I did, like I said, I downloaded it yesterday, but I downloaded Fall Guys at the same time.
Oh.
So I had a quick go on Fall Guys, and the Avengers beta was downloading in the background. So I haven't checked it today because I've been drawing all day and haven't had a chance to have a look at it. So I'll probably have a nose after this. Well, I suppose with your recommendation, was it any good?
That's quite a high-pitched note there.
That's a no.
Okay, so honestly, I've seen a lot of negativity about this game, at least the beta, online, and a lot of it is very justly deserved. Having said that, I did have fun playing the game. the more story-focused aspects of it, I really enjoy. There's bits where you get to play as Kamala Khan and the Hulk, and that was an awful lot of fun. Flinging around Thor's hammer in that intro bit that we've all seen a million times. That was a lot of fun, and it was really, really cool. Then the game becomes what I think it actually is a sort of single-player game wearing, like, the dismembered corpse of a multiplayer game, like Hannibal Lecter with the face on or something. It's a weird mashup because, like, I mean, they've gone on and on. Square Enix have gone on about how they want this game to be a live service. And I was just like, hey, remember when you were a kid and you bought a game and you played a game and that was it? Remember that? I remember that. That was fun. Why can't we?
Yeah.
And, oh, God. And I just think there are good aspects of this game. And I did have fun playing it. And later on, I got to play as Iron Man and Black Widow. And it was pretty good. But I got the sense the game was being forcibly held back. There's a big emphasis on loot and stats and stuff, and once you pick a character for a mission, you have to play as that character. So, and oh god, and so, and also, there's no real diversity in play styles between the characters. So you start off playing Kamala Khan at one point, and it's really cool because you, like, zip around the place, run around, punching bad guys with your big stretchy arms and your big empowers.
With your massive fist.
Massive fist, exactly. You fist a bunch of guys. It's a lot of fun.
Great. From what I've seen of her gameplay, she looks like probably the most fun character to play.
But then you play as the Hulk, and you think the Hulk will be very different because he's a much different character in terms of play style and physicality and stuff. It feels almost exactly the same. And the worst part is, there's a bit later on where I was playing as the Hulk, and I had a pretty good time, but then there's a bunch of big bad guys, and it's just like, okay, fine, that should be fairly easy, because no spoilers, I faced a much bigger bad guy, a sort of a main Marvel villain that we may have seen before earlier in the game, and he was piss easy to beat because I played on the easiest difficulty because I want to have a good time, you know? So then I faced a big room full of bad guys to think, well, I'm still on the easiest difficulty. I've leveled up a bit since then, so this will be piss easy. I died like 5 fucking times because I would do the same thing. I would wade into the bad guys as the Hulk, thinking, Scott smash! And I would get assaulted on all sides by all these different bad guys. And I would have to, eventually I realized, I can't just go in as the Hulk and just try and smash all the guys as the Hulk. I've got to smash a little bit, then retreat, then go back and smash again. Like I was playing Kamala Khan. And here's the thing, that works for Kamala Khan because she could only take so much punishment, but I was supposed to be playing as the Hulk. I'm supposed to be like this big, tanking, bruising guy, and the Hulk is now running in, decking a guy, and then running a grey like, not touching, can't get mad at Hulk, not touching, can't get mad at Hulk. And it's just like, I thought I was playing as the Hulk, not Kamala Khan dressed as the Hulk. It's...
Have they ever made a Hulk game?
They have made
game
2 Hulk games.
Well, no, but hear me out. So have they ever made one where, like, Hulk can actually die, and the more he gets hit, the stronger he gets, but the more difficult it is to control him?
Yes, there have been 3 Hulk games. The one based on the Ang Lee, actually bringing that back, Hulk movie. Yeah. One based on the Marvel Incredible Hulk movie, which is shit, and one that was just an independent thing called Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction.
Yeah. I've seen clips of that.
And in that game, where you take a lot of damage, you get that last sliver of your health, like your energy bars get a massive boost, and then you can just like let rip right before you die, and hopefully that's a last-ditch attempt to get away. Because the mechanics of that game perfectly understood the Hulk, and also you could tear a taxi cab apart and turn it into like big metal boxing gloves, which is always awesome.
Brilliant.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, Hulk, I think they, or someone like Wolverine say, where, like, video games just can't quite wrap their head around the fact that these characters cannot die and still figure out a way to make it interesting.
There's a lot of weird design choices. Having said that, the game looks beautiful. The characters feel like not gameplay wise, mechanically wise, but in terms of the personality, the plot, and the dialogue, they feel like they're characters. And it's the thing. I could not recommend that you pre-order this game. I would say maybe wait until it's released to buy it. If you want to buy it first day, fair enough. But I would wait to see how the reviews come in. I'm probably going to get it anyway because I'm Marvel's bitch at this point, and I accept that. But I will wait for a price drop to be sure. So I wish I had better things to say, but that's it. If you want a more in-depth review, like watch any of Jim Sterling's videos because I trust everything that man says. I'm definitely his bitch as well. But so that's the Avengers beta. Moving on now to something that I actually like, SKRAWL. This looks so cool.
Oh, cheers, dude. We're real proud of it.
Yeah, it's come on good.
Absolutely. I mean, because I'm just looking at the Kickstarter. There's so much personality behind this project. I think that's because there's a lot of people involved in the project that I'm guessing have very bold personalities, at least in terms of their art and their work.
Well, and other things. I wouldn't limit it there. I mean, we're mostly irascible assholes, to be honest, but with a good heart, I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Episode 150 of Podcapers, I got to talk with a bunch of guys who worked on the Quarantine anthology book.
Jordan's book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, John Thomas.
Yeah, John Thomas.
And
good guy.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, including yourself, Russell, worked on Quarantine.
Yeah,
And
we did.
All of the Skrull Lords did. I'm the only one that didn't.
Yeah.
yeah,
Fuck is our bridesmaid.
Yeah. Fuck that guy. No, I like Jordan, man. He's a nice guy.
he's a great guy.
I've spoken to him since. I think I'm doing something with him. He sent me a script, but I'm not really sure if I can say anything about
Well,
it.
fair enough.
Oh man, you
Yeah.
guys would be a good match.
Yeah,
You'd be a great match.
I mean, I'm looking.
it's a brilliant little script. It's great. So
Because I'm looking at your artwork right now on your website, The Art of Sock, and it looks
you.
really, really cool. I'm particularly taken with this one drawing you have of Neil Gaiman, I believe it is.
Oh right, yeah.
That looks really good. It all looks really good. I'm listening to the Sandman audiobook right now, so I'm in a very Neil Gaiman-y headspace.
Oh, I've heard really good stuff about that.
Yeah, it's getting great reviews,
It's
right?
so fucking good, you guys. Like I've been cycling to work, and I listened to that while on the half-hour bike ride, and it makes the commute just fly by. It really does. It feels like the Sandman should feel. Everything from the voice actors, obviously, to the sound design, the way it's put, and of course, it's narrated by the big man himself, Neil Gaiman. So that adds an extra layer of authenticity to it.
Cool. Yeah, very cool.
And so I just want to talk about you a bit more for the moment, Sock, because in addition to the work you've done on this, you've also done a couple other stuff. You've got your website is jam packed full of artwork, but also you've got two things that I was particularly intrigued by. You've got as free download Jack Kirby comic templates.
Yeah, they were. Jack Kirby created a bunch of templates that were kind of like, like Wally Wood's panels that are guaranteed to work. And they were just Jack Kirby's basic layouts. So if you were struggling to lay a comic out, you could just use this for reference and be like, right, this page has got 5 panels. I'll have a look down the list to where he's drawn the 5 panel pages and pick one of them. It's great. It's really good, actually. Stacks and stacks of people downloaded them off me. I never actually took credit for them. They are Jack Kirby's idea, but all I did was I created the layouts inside Clip Studio Paint.
Mm-hmm.
So that it just took me a few hours. I just made put like a template of one page in, and then just made the borders made the panels correlate with the template. So if anybody wanted them, they could just download them, and then every panel is its separate folder, so you can't draw outside the lines of the folder and crap like that. Really, I use them quite often because I find them so easy to use, and they always work. So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
They're
right,
like a pair of like really well worn like leather shoes.
yeah, I wouldn't take them off.
No, share the wealth. I just
they
love that you included this as a free download and as just a tool for people who are interested in comics to just to have. I think that's really great that you did that.
Yeah,
And
well, it was more. I think I put them on there as a free download when I made them available to other people, but they had to get in touch with me and just ask for them, and then I'd send them a Dropbox link. But then when the lockdown started with the pandemic, I noticed a lot of people were giving away free downloads of their stuff to help people through tougher times, I suppose. So someone said, "Oh, I never thought about putting a link to the website before." So all I did was just put the link to the Dropbox. So if people wanted them, I just put it on Twitter. If somebody wanted to go and grab them, there they are. So
it's really great that
I think it's still live as well. If anybody wants them, anybody listening to this wants them, just go along and grab them. They're there.
Link in the show notes. Capers provide a link to the Art of Socks, so you can go from there and download them for yourselves. And that's not all you can download. There's also a Welsh alphabet thing.
Yep.
Which
illustrated Welsh alphabet.
The illustrated Welsh, which I fucking love, because here's the thing: Welsh, and I mean this with all due respect, is a nonsense language. But
that's absolutely disgusting. I will not put up with that shite.
But here's the thing: your illustrated Welsh alphabet looks really, really good, and not just because of the art, but also just the way it lays out the Welsh alphabet.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the reason I did it was I'm not a true Welsh speaker. I'm a learner. And have been for, I don't know, maybe I think this is about my 5th year. Quite a few of my friends actually went to Welsh schools, but where I live, we went to the English speaking school. And you always find these illustrated alphabets, for kids, but nobody's ever, well, I've never really seen one for adults. Not that it's adult themed, but it's not quite like, a picture of an apple, a picture of a ball.
It's basically 26 words for your nuts.
Yeah. So, there you go.
I mean, I'm sure even if you had done that, the artwork would have been lovely. But I do like the artwork, and I love just some of the interesting choices you did make. Because you do the apple, but also, I mean, unless I'm horrifically misinterpreting it, you've also got things like bard and druid. Is that right?
Yeah.
And as a big time Dungeons and Dragons nerd, this speaks to me.
Yep, right. Well, that's where those words come from. if you're wondering why Welsh is a nonsense language.
Well, it's a nonsense language that's wormed its way into the English language, and
I think you find it's the other way around.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
gosh.
So a lot of the words that you know now in English are Welsh words.
Well, because I'm so into my fantasy, I've looked into Arthurian lore, and let's face it, Arthurian legend, we pretend like it's English, but it's Welsh. it's the Welsh legend.
Of course.
Merlin is
It's-
actually Meredith Wilt.
Yeah.
If I'm probably
Mhm.
mispronouncing that horribly, but it's and
Wyllt. Wyllt is wild.
yeah, exactly. So it's like Merlin
Yeah,
Wildman.
and a Gwyllt is in the wild. So
Yeah. I mean, if you think Guinevere is an
Yeah.
English name, you're barking up the wrong fucking tree.
of course, yeah.
I mean, that pretty much with Meriden Will, that pretty much whiffed. However you say that, pretty. I'm already showing my complete and utter lack of knowledge of Welsh. That's the only Welsh I know. Apart from
You should read the mem. I can give
Yeah, if you like that kind of thing, you should read the Mab. It's amazing.
you know, I probably will do because I mean, I do like that. I mean, the only other aspect of Welsh historical fantasy that I know is like I read the first book in the Prydain Chronicles that the movie The Black Cauldron was based off of, and
Mhm.
that's
Okay.
chock full of Welsh culture and Welsh mythology, and it was really fascinating.
What's it called?
It's called the first book is called The Power of Three, and the
Right. And what did you say? Prydain?
Prydain, yes, Prydain.
Yeah, well, that means Britain in Welsh, yeah?
Oh, did not know that. I learned something
Yeah.
today.
Prydain is Britain in Welsh.
Okay. Oh, but it's not
Yeah.
set in Britain. It's set in a fictional fantasy world.
Right?
But it includes
Like Wales.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about the map is like it's like a fantasy version of Wales.
Yeah.
You should check it out. It's good.
I probably
Yeah, it's
will
great.
do. I mean, any nation that has Ydregoch as its like flag,
Yeah, yeah.
I probably mispronounced that as well. But fuck it, I'm in too deep now.
Yeah, dry goch. Yeah.
Ydregoch. I can barely speak English as it is.
That's all good.
Maybe I'll take the time to learn, and maybe I'll incorporate it into one of my Dungeons and Dragons character at some point.
Perfect. Or perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect. Yeah. Love it.
So, so that's you, Sock. Now, Russell, in addition to Quarantine and Get Received in Lately Hollywood, you would safe to say you're the driving force behind SKRAWL. Would that be fair?
I'm the bee in the bonnet, if that's the way you want to put it. Yeah, I don't know if I'm the driving force so much as the like maybe just the person who wakes up a little bit earlier, just has a bit more caffeine in me. I mean, like technically, I've put on the role of editor, but that was not from the get go. That was kind of we realized just before we were about to launch that we probably actually needed to dole out some roles, and I don't mind being a bit bossy, so I think it was just a good fit. And I've got at the moment while I've got a huge pile of stuff in my inbox. At the same time, I've got a lot in my outbox, so I've got quite a few pitches, which is kind of like doing the rounds. And I don't really like to start up on new stuff until you kind of get definitive answers on things. So I think I've had a little bit more time than the other guys have had. Hence why like Ditch Angels was able to come out so quickly. Was that if I set aside an hour and a half to do some painting every morning, I could get an illustration or two done in that time and still have time to do my other work. So, but yeah, I suppose I've probably cracked the whip a bit more than the other guys on putting it all
100%.
together.
Well, that's good.
It
Someone's got to lead. Someone's got to lead by example, and you took the reins.
It's better than good. It's perfect. It wouldn't be as far along the line as it is without Russell's hard work.
And there's a lot of cattle to rustle, for want of a better phrase. And so
you say that. I mean, I've worked on projects with people before, which have been a little bit more difficult to kind of corral. But I think we have so much respect for each other, and while our styles are sort of wildly different, we all kind of come from a similar place of appreciation for not just each other, but for comics in general. And I think we like when we sort of bonded, became the Skrull Lords. It was just an easy thing to do. I don't think anybody's like, oh shit, what am I getting myself into? It was a natural thing. I think whether or not we'd actually dubbed ourselves anything wouldn't have changed the our subsequent correspondence from that one bit. And so I think, I mean, they're probably, and Sock would attest to this. Like, it's not that we have, like, I wouldn't say that the path has been completely smooth, but there's never been any like rancor or any diversion from our sort of path so great that there was ever a point where like, oh, we really should stop doing this, or maybe we should put this to bed, or maybe half the group breaks off and does one thing and the other half does the other. There haven't really ever been any bits like that, and I feel like that we kind of trust each other enough that if something doesn't quite fit, somebody feels confident enough to speak up and say, hey, this isn't really working.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it work. We're pretty much upfront with how we feel about certain aspects of the project. So, plus it's it's more of a. I think everybody appreciates that it's a bit of a democracy. People if the opinion is bigger in the group, then buck up and just take it on the chin, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because it's not just like SKRAWL is the work of the SKRAWL lords, but it's not exclusively SKRAWL lords. Like, we've brought in guests to even it out, to pat it out, to make sure that it's not just our sort of insular voices. So I think it's interesting. There's sort of two different things. Like, nobody runs the SKRAWL lords. It's just, it made sense to have somebody in the driver's chair for SKRAWL.
Absolutely. I mean, side note, I love the fact that you've dubbed yourself the SKRAWL Lords, because it sounds to me like a biker gang at a Judge Dredd or something.
We'll cut you, man.
Yeah. Yeah, look out.
Absolutely does it, but also it's not just this insular exclusive thing. It's something that you, as you say, you brought other people onto, and we're going to talk about all of them in excruciating detail in just a moment. But before we do, for the capers at home, what exactly is SKRAWL? What's it all about?
So, SKRAWL is it's what happened when we as the SKRAWL lords decided to do a project together, who all have many strings to our respective bows and many commitments. So, like Nick has Slang Pictorial, Long May That Rain. Martin has Needleman and coming out soon Nord. Pete and Mark, or Pete and Sock, I should say, have, amongst other things individually, together they are the team that drives Silverbeard.
The 7 Sagas of Silverbeard.
Yeah, it's so good, isn't it? And then you've got Gustavo, who is, making magic up in Edinburgh on a number of different projects. And so we wanted to figure out a way to work together that compartmentalize things so that we could still do that, but not neglect our other projects. And so it made, like, I don't know, not that I've got something against anthologies, I don't, but there are a lot of anthologies which are very rudderless and are just kind of comics lumped together for the sake of being comics lumped together. And there was something very different about the way Silverbeard felt, being in that larger format. I think we gravitated towards that, and just sort of saying, by making it look physically different, it will have the license to do something a bit different. We did talk early on about doing something in newsprint, making it quite disposable. But then I think, while it would have been cool to do, the numbers just didn't quite work out. It's quite expensive to do that, and then when you're getting a bunch of artists together to work on that at the same time, your rates just kind of go a bit haywire. So in the end, the magazine just made more sense.
Yeah, so it's in US magazine format.
Yeah. Yep.
And so
it's...
Sorry, go on.
Oh,
it's a little bit wider and a little bit taller than a US comic.
Okay.
So it's... I don't have it in front of me, but do you remember those old... You may not. But do you remember the old Conans? Like the Conan specials?
I mean, this is the problem. See, I never really grew up sort of interacting with those sorts of comics. Like, when I was a kid, I pretty much exclusively read the Beano, and because that explains a lot of my personality, to be perfectly honest, and why I carry
nothing wrong with a Beano.
No, it's
why I carry a slingshot in my back pocket, But
Of
it
course.
wasn't until I was a bit older and I started. My parents got me a bunch of like Marvel Essentials, like those big black and
Yeah.
white copies of like all the Spider-Man runs and stuff. But even
Mhm.
then, that's in a different format to the original comics. It was blown up a little bit. So when it comes to, I'm still learning, to be perfectly honest, about the different sort of
And we all are.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just maybe the best way to put it is it's just a bit bigger.
Yeah.
And bigger is
It,
always
It
better.
looks. It just looks more like a magazine that you'd find on a shelf. They're just like a glossy. It looks more like a magazine than a comic. That's only the real way to explain it, I
Absolutely.
suppose.
And I hate
yeah,
that you have to make that comparison though, because we automatically associate magazine with like okay and hello and all that other drivel.
Yeah.
But that's there's so much more to the medium than that. Like, because Scrawl is in part inspired, if not based on, um, previous UK comics like Escape and Revolver,
mhm,
Yep.
all of
yeah,
which I know nothing about, but it says so on your Kickstarter, so I'm going to repeat it.
yeah. They were able to do something with that magazine format that you find that like comics just can't quite do. And I don't know what this is. I think it is entirely semiotic. It's just based on the name.
Hmm.
But like Escape, one thing that really sort of well, okay, we'll talk about like Revolver. Um, Probably that's a little bit easier to talk about because it was a little bit newer and it's spun off from 2000 AD, so people might be a little bit more aware of that.
Hmm.
But it allowed cartoonists or writers and artist collectives to break out from what they had been doing previously, sort of when genre was king. Well, not genres, but like when you were either doing war comics, superhero comics, um, or something like the Vertigo
Hmm.
comics, so something in between crime and superhero. Um, where with underground comics, people were able to do a little bit more and have a little bit more fun with the medium and play around with the formats. But with underground comics, often comes maybe lesser quality production line. When you're doing underground, you just don't have the money to make something really nice and polished. But of course, Revolver had the backing of 2000 AD, so they were able to do that and take a few more risks. But ultimately, it's about risks. So it allows you to either play with short form format comics or to do serialized comics in a shorter format. So you could do a long form comic, but you could break it up over time. So it allows you to either maybe tell a story that you've been wanting to tell for a long time, but it would take quite a bit of effort. And you'd have to cut off some other projects in order to focus and do that one project. With a magazine, you're coming out either quarterly or you're coming out biannually. So it means that whenever you've got the time to work on it, you can kind of fit it in around other
Because
things.
there's a
And get
huge history with that sort of thing in the UK, especially going all the way back to like the Penny Dreadfuls and all those magazines
yeah,
that things were published in that you wouldn't think they were published in, like Sherlock Holmes and Charles Dickens were all published
yeah.
in magazines, if I'm remembering rightly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Charles Dickens, he made most of his money off of selling magazines, which were just filled with his stories, and he hired other people to fill it in. And that's kind of the thing is you can maybe reach a few of your more lofty ambitions with what you want to do with the medium by knowing that someone else is like if I wanted to do a full comic, just like I've done for Scrawl, which is colored in marker. It takes a little bit longer. You wouldn't think so, but you've because you're working on the board. There's no undo button. Whatever goes down onto the page, that's what gets printed. Um, you've got to work a little bit more slowly, a little bit more methodically. And if I was to try and put out even just a full issue of something like that, it would take me quite a bit longer than it would if I just say, "Hey, I'm putting this together with some friends, so I only have to fill 10 to 11 pages of real estate, really." Um, so that it frees you up. It gives you the opportunity to do that, where you might not be able to do it on your own for cost, time, production, yada yada yada.
Hmm. And it also helps when you've got a lot of talented people working on said real estate, so you know that you spent your time how you want to spend it, but other people's time has been spent very, very well as well.
Yeah, and we're not short of talent in this magazine. There are some. I mean, I think the Skrulls are some of the most really like talented, interesting people working in comics at the moment. But you know, we've been really lucky with being able to draft people like Rosie Packwood. I mean, like Christ's sake, like she's going to be a massive name in just a few years. Or being able to like pull back to that history of things like Escape and get Phil Elliott in. And I like in many ways, like Phil Elliott, I feel is like he may not be appreciate being used, like he's not being used, but you know, sort of as being a kind of a signifier of saying, hey, we're paying homage to the things that came before us with this. Um, and like Jessica Lucas, like she's done some stunning work, but hasn't done lots in the comic format. So you know, we're giving a bit of space for her to show us what she's got, and the stuff she's shown so far has been incredible.
Because that's the great thing about
And then
anthology. It's anthologies. It's a great can be a great amalgamation of when it comes to creative people and contributing people, the past, the present, and the future. People who are up and coming, people who are solidly working in the industry now, and people who are veterans of the industry.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think, well, I mean, the proof will be in the pudding. I can't say that this is, you know, that categorically it'll be a success. I mean, I know it will because everybody's working like guns blazing to get this made and get it made as well as it possibly can. But it there's because you've got so much people who've earned their stripes. Like you know, you can kind of bank on that alone. So in some ways, if I'm browsing the stalls of a comic shop and I'm looking for something new and I pick this up, and I may not know some of the names that are on the cover, but I know really well two or three of them. I'm more likely to take a punt on that, which then gives that artist who may not have the same amount of exposure the opportunity for their name to be
The
elevated.
Grim Reaper known as brand recognition.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to pay attention to it. I mean, when you're running a Kickstarter, so much of what makes a Kickstarter successful is how well you as an artist have made a brand out of who you are and how successful your social media presence is. And when you put a bunch of people in a room together and consolidate those resources, you're able to extend quite a bit further. We've been really lucky that way.
And that's why I'm so glad to be working on Podcapers and a place to hang your cape, because as much as we do stupid, wanky fan scription stuff of where it's me talking about how I would fix Star Wars and we're doing reviews of all the latest releases and stuff, we do like to talk to people from the indie comic scene and people who are both, you know, mainstays but also up and comers. And it's important because, to quote that great movie Ratatouille, the new needs friends. And it's a story about a rat that wants to be a chef, but you know what? It has important things to say.
It does, yeah.
And it's important. It's important to do that. And the independent comic scene is great. It's just that only becomes a problem when someone wants to break into the, for want of a better word, mainstream, and the mainstream industry just like crushes them down, crushes them into a fine powder, just like this is mortal pestle, and it's I fucking hate that because I know creative people, I know like film directors and writers and stuff who have, you know, tried to do that and are very well established in the independent scene, and the second they dip a toe into working for the BBC or something like that, they're just completely dismissed. And it's just like, have you seen some of the work they've done? Like, I know this director who has been to, whose work has been showcased in hundreds of film festivals, won countless awards. She's really fantastic. And every time she pokes her head up and says, hello, BBC, or something like that, got anything going? She's either told no or yes, dependent on them checking a diversity box. Which, don't get me wrong, getting, you know, diverse people in is important, but not just for checking a box. And she's worth more than that, and a lot of people are worth more than that.
Yeah, I agree.
It's an easy thing to get by. Off my soapbox I go, and back to what matters, SKRAWL. So, can you give us a taste of some of the stories that we can expect to read in SKRAWL?
Sure. Sock, do you want to do one or two, and then I'll do a few more?
No, you can do them. You're much more eloquent than I am.
Well, I don't know about that. You know more words. You've got two languages.
Yeah.
All right. So from some of the SKRAWL lords themselves. So Pete Taylor is currently in process of writing and drawing out his story. So it's quite fresh in my mind at the moment, which is a very reflective piece on his own upbringing, like not upbringing, but his coming of age with comics, and about friendship, and about what comics mean to individuals, and how how geekdom or fandom can create friendships, but about how individually those things that you are a fan of, they are you may be a fan of them for one core sort of as a group, one core thing, but each person is going to have their own personal reasons for liking something, or being a fan of it, or thinking about it constantly, or wanting to work with it in the future professionally. And so his story is very sort of personal in that way. It's about this group of friends, and one in particular. There's something about this comic that they're all kind of crazy about, which hits a little bit closer to home. It's a really beautiful story.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
And Pete has such an encyclopedic knowledge of comic history.
Well, he's the Scrawlnicler.
Yeah, he's the
Scrawlnicler. That's a much better way of saying it. Fuck.
Yeah. It's these. I mean, many of these words, they don't really work when they're written down. You've got to. It's a verbal.
It's all in the inflection. Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
too consonanty.
Yeah.
You said it better than I. I thought it was Scronsula.
We're having elections for the Scronsula later, Zach.
I mean, that's medicine you take when you've got something nasty going on downstairs.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's Scronicillin. Yeah, that's when you've got a particularly bad case of Scrophilus. But which I can say, all the scrolls are Scrophilus free as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Pete's. Then you've got Martin Simpson, who I think in many ways his story, which is set in space, it's a solo character. It's one astronaut in a little space pod traveling around.
And then Sandra Bullock floats by the window.
Yeah, a little bit like
oh
that.
God, I was just joking.
But it's a very quiet story. I think it's he may disagree, but I would say there's part of him which is processing quarantine and lockdown in the process of doing these pages. I think he's basically got it all blocked out. He's kind of done with about a third of it now. So I don't know whether the story is going to change now that lockdown is easing. But by the time he's finished, we may be back down in lockdown. So it might sort of re-energize his singular thought for the story. But it's as Martin Simpson is only he's capable of these sort of very methodically, painstakingly rendered images. If you're familiar with Needleman, then you know that there's very few people working in comics who are capable of delivering something so aesthetically pleasing as Martin. And he's everything that we've seen from his comic, which is called The Void. You're in for a treat. It is absolutely gorgeous.
I mean, I'm looking at some of the artwork right now, and it looks like I don't even know what to compare it to. It looks like a more a less three-dimensional, I guess. Well, even though it's kind of three-dimensional, sort of Alex Ross sort of thing. That's not a great comparison, but it's very vibrant.
Yeah, very vibrant. Nick Prolix. I'm going to butcher what he said the other day, but I think he nailed it. There's a kind of a nod to Art Deco.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
You could see Martin quite happily painting backdrops for a new Batman animated series. There's that sense of opulence and this sort of jewel-like color to his
Well, so
quality.
it's got a bit of a splash of like electro punk to it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Punk. There's kind of an element of whether or not we are punks. There's an element of punkishness to the Skrulls, and certainly to this book. So that's another one of the stories. You've got Gustavo Vargas, who has been working in watercolor for his strip called The Oak Tree, and it is it's you wouldn't think the story would be out of place in something like a film directed by Guillermo del Toro. There's a kind of a magical realism
Sort
quality
of like
to
a
it.
Watership Down vibe, I'm getting.
Oh yeah, very much.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's a very light, fluffy start. It does get dark. It gets very dark.
Like
Um,
Watership Down.
yeah, exactly. Um, and it's in many ways, I mean, Gustavo, he's Peruvian, but this is him
We won't hold
in
that against him.
yeah, no, but this is him in the like in the Scottish landscape, connecting with his new home, and at the same time doing what Gustavo does, which is just tell gripping, fast-paced, beautifully illuminated stories. It's gorgeous. I don't want to give too much away, but it's about a dog, and it's gorgeous. It's wonderful.
Man, it's something else. It looks
He
amazing.
really is. Gustavo's going to be. I mean, I hope that everybody in the Scrolls is going to hit the heights. But Gustavo's just a little. He's a little dynamo. He's just what a joy he is. Nick Prolix, the mighty Nick Prolix, is working on a slightly biographical, slightly sociological examination of race and use of racial stereotypes, both here and abroad, as well as his cultural home of Cyprus. So he's
Cyprios.
yeah, Cyprios.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's I think first generation English or British Cypriot. His parents came over I think in the 60s or 70s. Since went back, I think. But he is such a big brain, very smart guy, and so while say Martin has been processing the feeling of being isolated and being kind of floating and alone, Nick has been looking at what's been going on with the Black Lives Matter movement. And processing that in real time, as well as looking at it historically.
You have to look at it historically.
There's some depth to this magazine. Yeah, absolutely. And then looking at it close to home, like looking at it in Cypriot social structures and culture. And so far, the pages we've seen are just stunning. I mean, they're all done in that particular like Nick Prolix, Lean Claire style, all hand lettered. And boy, has he done some hand lettering! Like,
Plus, it's disgusting. His work rate is just stupid.
yeah,
He'll chuck like a message in the group text like just give me 5 minutes and I'll have something for you. Bang, page done.
yeah. For
And
like the first image,
10 minutes later, bang, coloured, lettered.
yeah.
It's like, oh, all right, okay, I get what you're doing here. You're just making us all look really stupid, Nick. Well done.
It's that's another thing that's been lovely about this process is seeing everybody turn their pages in as they're working, and just seeing, you can tell everybody is swinging for the fences with their strips, and they're putting out some of the best work I've ever seen. Sock's working on a piece that is about an intergalactic boxing match, basically. Like it's a big galactic punch up with a character called Slab Sharif, and like in what Sock does so well is give you volume and form and weight, and just propels you through the story.
Bless you.
So I've seen one page so far, but I've seen a lot of like preparatory sketches, and I've seen some other things that he's been doing at the same time. and I think it's going to be a thrill a minute. I can't wait to see more.
It's but it's basically it's a story. It's a character. It's based around a character that's already created by Pete. This man is Pete Taylor, for his what is it, like comic umbrella of cat food comics. So it's already a well established character that everybody has heard of.
Yeah. You've already got the back issues.
Yeah, so you got to go and search out those non-existent back issues. Yeah, so I just wanted to point out that it was I haven't really apart from drawing it, I haven't really done any work. Pete I did write it though. This is probably my well, it's my second attempt, I suppose, at writing something. I say writing, it's just going to be a big fight. But
hey man, there's writing to that. We were talking about that that issue of Daredevil that Mark Waid wrote, where like it's basically just that big fight.
Yeah, the
I mean, you can tell it's you got to get the pace right. I think it's going to be beautiful to see unfold.
You got to get the pacing right. You got to get the emotion right. You got to get there's
fight choreography.
There's so many moving parts, more so than just pure dialogue and two characters talking with each other. It is one of the hardest things to do, and I'm sure you'll do a fantastic job, to be honest.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I mean, you've just been working on that thing for Silverbeard, which is basically a big fight.
That's all it is. Yeah, one.
And the timing on that thing was perfect. Like the sort of cliffhanger. Like I'm completely confident that you're going to smash Slab Sharif.
I hope so.
And then there's some sort of magazine-y bits to the magazine as well. So it's not just me comics. We've got both Sock and Nick have done some work to kind of highlight the valor and the sacrifices of the NHS over quarantine.
Thank you.
Nick has done some. Yeah, thank you. Nick has done these tribute pieces for staff members from the NHS who have lost their lives, sadly, while on the front line. And it's one of the few places where you actually can turn to online and see and put faces to names and to see a record of all the people that we've lost in this country.
It's shocking when you look at them, mind.
It's absolutely tragic. And he's the commitment that he's given to it. We just felt like this is something important. This is something that needs to be more widely circulated, and we're putting out a magazine. So here's an opportunity to do that. Sock has created, I mean, as well as being a brilliant comic artist, Sock is also a great street artist. And so he's done what, 2 murals, Sock, or is it just the one?
I did the one NHS one. I did another one, but it's I did the 2, but the other one was just like a basic Hartley NHS one, like a little one.
Right. Yeah. But the other one's really big. I mean, in fact, I think it became like a Pokemon stop, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a Pokemon stop now. Yeah. Whatever that means.
But I think we're the ones who are putting this magazine together. So whatever we want to put in the book, we're going to. And we felt that it was that it was fitting that in this time that we would reserve some space to give thanks to the sacrifices that have been, and to point people in the direction of the fact that, like, we as Skrulls, we do comics, but we do other things, and that sometimes those things sort of transcend. That sounds like we're highfalutin and really big for our britches, but sometimes we feel it's important to kind of drop our brushes and do something else, or highlight, or put the focus on somebody else. And certainly for this issue, we want to show off our appreciation for the NHS and what they've done to keep us healthy and safe, and when potentially those who should be responsible aren't acting as responsibly.
They certainly are not.
The opposite, in fact. It's.
Yeah.
I mean, as a guy whose dad has been hospitalized twice this year, it means a lot that there were such great doctors and nurses there to help him through, even though one of the most disastrous things that could happen to any healthcare body was happening. They're all, and especially as I'm PlayStation Cape, I know of at least one person who also, as part of their day job, works in the NHS on the front lines. I'm not going to call them out or anything. I just want to point that out. It's my heroes, every single one of them, and unfortunately, they're not getting the support they fucking deserve. And
they're
is
getting less than that, and they're getting stabbed in the back.
Yeah, the thing is that they are heroes, but they shouldn't have to be heroes.
No. It's
they should be able to go in and do their jobs, and for basically to protocol and procedure and protective equipment to just work, and for there to be no risk or low risk. But instead, that's not the case.
I mean, because I work at a place I'm not gonna name, but it's a big chain store, and I have never had any want for any kind of PPE. I have always had access to face masks, gloves, enough hand sanitizer to drown myself in. There's been tons for all of us, and granted, we don't have many staff on site as, say, an NHS hospital, but it's awful that I had that for what has been deemed essential, but really shouldn't have been essential, compared to a hospital or even a doctor's practice, a GP practice. It's
yeah. We're there with you, man. We're there with you.
It's so I feel so just powerless, and it's just useless all the while this stuff is going on. But thankfully, you guys are actually doing something about that, actually showing support in a meaningful way, not just like clapping on Facebook or something, actually putting pen to paper and taking time out of your stuff that you could use to, promote yourself, something you're actually doing to promote people who need it. And it's a really good thing you're doing, guys, honestly.
That's perfect. It's not us that deserves the lauding. It's the guys on the front line.
Yeah, and newspapers should be, publishing the photographs of all of our NHS workers who have given their lives for the fight, but they're not doing that. So
I've not seen single news piece about that sort of thing online, on the television, in a newspaper. Maybe I missed it. I probably fucking didn't.
No, you probably didn't.
No, I mean they're not even advertising. I mean, I don't know where this conversation is going, but they're not even telling you the infection rate or the death rate daily anymore. And you can check the statistics; they're still going up. Nothing's changed. They're just not telling you.
Oh, but apparently there's been like 5,000 less deaths than we previously thought. Yeah, of course. I believe that 100%. It's not like the government has previously miscalculated the amount of deaths or indeed an infection rate by completely ignoring nursing homes, retirement homes. God.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so as well as that, we're also going to have an interview. I guess we could announce it now. We're going to Prolix is going to be interviewing the great Roger Langridge for the magazine. So that that's going to be another kind of editorial bit that we're going to include, and they're going to talk about process and a little bit about Roger's history in comics, and all things really good and gritty about what it is, what do comics mean to them, and what where's the future of comics, and what do we see happening, and where's your career going? And I can't wait to read that. That's going to be fantastic. For our contributors, we've got. So I mentioned earlier Rosie Packwood and Phil Elliott, and there's Jessica Lucas, and then Matt Simmons, creator of Bastard Galaxia, as well as Future Egg. I mean, he's got this wonderful lo-fi analog quality to his work that you don't see a lot anymore. I mean, in many ways, comic production has become so slick in this country that people who want to create, like Xerox copy zines, it's really difficult to kind of to get that work not only done, but to do it well and to get it sold. And Matt, he's bless him, he's so stubborn. Like he's like, these are the way I make comics, and this is how I want to do it. And he does the photocopying stuff, and he does the scissors and the glue and the tape, and what he's producing is fantastic. And I'm really proud that we're going to have something like that. The tricky bit is going to be, how do we frame it? How do we make sure that in a magazine, which are known for being well put together and glossy, how do we still keep the spirit of his analog comics alive? I think he's cracked it. I think he's
I
cracked
mean,
it.
just looking
And I
at
think
some
people,
of his stuff now, I mean, it kind of seems to me, and I could be completely off base here, it kind of feels like an 80s Doctor Who Michael Allred sort of vibe.
you're not wrong. There is that. There's certainly. I mean, there are certainly nods to kind of pop art, which Mike Allred, you can tell quite quickly there's a huge fan of Warhol and some of that pop art modernist sensibility that went into artists like Jack Kirby and Kurtzman. There's a lot of that, and Ditko. There's a lot of that in Allred. And Matt has this massive love for films. He's a bit of a cinephile, and he kind of figures out how to pull some of that quality in. He's also, I mean, if anybody who's read Master Galaxia knows that he knows his '80s action figure turned into cartoons like the back of his hand. So there's this sort of like, I don't know. I think Matt is a fan, and somehow he communicates his work through what traditionally would just be kind of like fanzines, but he does it in a way that's a little bit more elegant and a lot more intelligent than what's gone on previously. And so he produces this stuff, which is just sort of beautiful ephemera done perfectly.
It's not harkening back to an old style, it's bringing that old style into the future.
Absolutely. And he's done it in a way that is like uniquely Matt Simmons. I don't know if one of my favorite things that he's done is he's got a zine called, I don't know if it's called, it's like, if you call it a zine, it's just what it is. It's Dracula. But it's him taking dictation of a friend who read Dracula some 10 years previously. And it's him trying to kind of, on this unending scroll. So it's a 4-foot long piece of paper, black paper, all done in white ink, of him trying to kind of follow the story that's being told to him by somebody whose memory is probably not pristine.
So there's this guy called Dracula. No, it's not the Dracula guy, it's the other guy.
Yep.
It's that sort of thing.
Yeah, and to pull it off, like not only just to do that, to think about doing it, but then to pull it off and do it so beautifully. I mean, that is so Matt Simmons. So hopefully we'll do him justice in the book. Big fan of him. And then stretch goals, which we've gone through the stretch goals now. So all this stuff is going to be in the book for anybody listening. Like, don't worry, this stuff is going to be in there. John Reppion, the great John Reppion, he's been doing those beautiful folk horror stories with PJ Holden online and on their Patreon. He's going to be doing a short story, folk horror story, and then Barking's Lucy Sullivan, who is just phenomenal, is doing the illustration for it. So again, like in the spirit of those lifestyle magazines of the 50s, there's going to be an illustrated story in the heart of the magazine. We're so excited to see what they come up with. And then we've got Mark Stafford has done this beautiful comic strip about some kaiju, which
this is the South Korean one.
Yeah. He did some, like, I mean, he's English, but he did like an art partnership with I think like maybe it's the English Council and the like South Korean Arts Council. He'll correct me, I'm sure, but anyway, those two countries were involved, and one of the things that's a product of it, I believe, is this, and it is absolutely hilarious and so incredibly rendered, beautifully drawn, beautifully colored. And his wit, he's so funny. He's so incredibly funny. And it's so hard, like Saka and I have talked about this before, it's so hard not to just give everything away because you just want to talk about it because it's so funny.
Yeah.
People are going to be quoting these lines.
The end of this strip is going to blow your mind.
Yeah.
Oh, you got me hyped now.
Yeah, it's good. So good.
I mean, Mark Stafford is, I mean, he's the artist in residence at the Cartoon Museum. He's somebody, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe everybody knows his name, but he's one of those artists that I think everybody should know. He's probably one of the top 5 creators in the UK right now. Quite a bit of work done with David Hine, and I think in years to come, people, like his stuff will be like must have in your home library. And then Simone De Armini, who did IDW's The Spider King, is going to do 2 pages that SKRAWLs were kind of writing together.
Yeah, it's yourself
and
and Gustavo Vargas, right?
Yeah, and I think, we're going to write the bones of the script. We've already basically got our idea together. It's just fleshing it out, which we need to do pretty quickly, actually. And then we'll pass it around to the SKRAWLs, and everybody will throw in their 2 cents. But Armini's work is, it's so unique. It's so fluid. It's so detailed. It's so interesting, and it's really quite unique. I think there are a lot of clone artists. Well, I'm going to sound salty by saying that, but I feel like when you go through Twitter and you look down the list of like people sharing art, you think, oh, that's that artist, and you're like, oh, no, actually, that's somebody else I've never heard of, but that looks just like that other artist. And there's a lot of that. And like you look at Simon Darmini's work, and you're like, Simone, like that's him. I know that guy.
Well, because
and there's nobody else.
They were the he was the 500th. Not the 500,000. The 5,000. 5,000 stretch goal.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We weren't sure we were going to get there, to be honest, but we did. And keep going, which is great. Really, the thing that obviously, the more money we make, the better. I'd be a liar if I said that wasn't our goal. Our goal isn't to make money, though. Our goal is to make money so that we can pay to make the magazines and pay our contributors, and hopefully fund future issues. So this first issue is not a money spinner. This first issue is
concept,
planting the seed. Yeah, it's planting the seeds of what this magazine, what we want it to be, and trying to get a big enough subscription into it that we can go on and do more. So really, and one of the things that we want to stress is the physical magazine. If you want to go for it, it's over 100 pages. It's £12.
Worth it.
We think it's worth it. But if you're a little bit cash strapped right now because hey, who isn't? Lockdown has not been kind to many people. There is a digital edition which is only £5, and when you think about the talent and the breadth of talent and the size of this book, £5, that's not bad.
No, that's obscenely good.
If you go onto Comixology and you're going to spend £4 for a 22-page, 30-page Marvel comic, here you're getting some of the biggest names in the UK scene, as well as some of the up and coming people who are going to be stars in just a short period of time.
Do I want a 100-page book for £5, or do I want to check out this new Warriors comic? Oh God, no!
Yeah, so we would love to get as many backers as possible. We don't care what you go for the £5, please. We want you to read this magazine. We want you to get behind it. We want to get it out in the comic shops. We want to also show the rest of the world what the UK is doing right now. That's not necessarily we don't want to just sort of fly the flag. That's not our goal. But this particular issue is all made up of people who are working in comics in the UK right now. And I think that's something really special when you see just how good it is. And to know how many other brilliant comic artists and writers and cartoonists there are that we haven't even touched that are working in the industry right now. Just go into Kickstarter right now and look for things that are being produced in the UK, and my God, the talent is staggering.
Every time I go to a comic convention, every time I go to Comics Village, I'm just surrounded by a wealth of talent and creativity every time.
Yeah, it's unbelievable what we've got here, and in some ways, that we kind of hope that SKRAWL might be a little bit of a balm for those who are missing conventions, because it is so many different artists, and because we've been really careful to make sure that that the work sits well together. That this will be a really nice curated convention in a way. That people can flip through it and they, maybe get some kind of sense of that feeling of listening into conversations or picking up a new book by somebody they never knew existed, but has already arrived on the scene, fully formed. SKRAWL hopefully will kind of feel a little bit like that. And the other thing that we've just passed today was the last stretch goal, which was we didn't anticipate having set it, so we were a little bit on the back foot, but we decided to do something a little bit different. And Kickstarter doesn't allow you to do things for charity. Like basically any money that you raise, it's in the agreement that you sign up with them when you set up a Kickstarter, is that all the money that comes into the Kickstarter has to be spent on the Kickstarter. So you can't raise money for charity. But what we did was Little Heroes Comics, which I'm sure the people listening, or if you're in the UK, are well aware. It's a brilliant charity that works to bring comic making kits to kids, most of whom are in hospital with long-term chronic illnesses, and many who may not who were so young they may not remember a time when they weren't ill. And Little Heroes produces these beautiful anthologies and these comic making kits, and they give them to these kids for free. And they give them some kind of an escape from what their life is, to dream and to be creative and to reflect and to have fun, and to be a kid and to enjoy comics for a moment. And so we set the next stretch goal, which wasn't a stretch goal, it was a charity goal, was if we got to 5,500, everyone involved, well, all of the SKRAWL Lords at least, we're going to try and extend it, but at the moment we can promise that all of the SKRAWL Lords will contribute to this jam piece. And then that jam piece will give to Little Heroes, and then they can auction it, either at an event or on eBay, or whenever we finally do get back to running conventions. And then all those proceeds will go to Little Heroes. So even if your bag isn't, this comic doesn't quite sound like your thing, if you want to get involved in a good thing, that if you donate to this, we're going to make sure that we will to do our damnedest to produce something that we can give to Little Heroes that will be of value, that they can then bring in some money to support a cause which is so worthwhile and so good and so noble and so necessary. So again, if you don't want to back the comic, keep your eyes peeled for the jam piece, and do please put some money towards that in the future.
Absolutely. And I just remember when I was a kid and I was doing my own little comics and all the fun I had with that, and that was when I was a healthy kid. So if you've got a kid with a long-term chronic illness, it would mean the world for them just to be able to give them the tools to create their own stories, their own little world of imagination.
Yeah. And some of them they can't go outside and kick a ball around, or they can't go to a friend's house and just have a play date. They can't do that. So to give them something to focus on, and drawing comics is one of those things. And kids are natural storytellers.
Oh yeah, they're the best storytellers.
Yeah, absolutely. I work with the comics club, with a bunch of 11 to 14-year-olds, and man, like really, like these kids, there's no bottom to their imagination. Anyway, that's one of the things that we're trying to do, trying to give back a bit. And I don't think we're going to set any more stretch goals at this point. Like, we've been blown away by the support. Again, we'd love more people to buy in, just to be part of it. But at this point, I think we're quite happy with what we've got. Another thing, a way that we want to say thanks to all the people who have supported it, is we had set this sort of golden ticket, which was if you paid £5 extra, you could come in to a Zoom meeting that we're going to have in about 3 weeks' time, September 13th at 6 p.m. British Standard Time. And it was just going to be the SKRAWLs, and we're going to chat about the comic, about the process, maybe show off some of the work that's been occurring behind the scenes in the meantime, so people can get a bit of a sneak peek about what's coming. But we're so floored that we feel like we can't charge people £5 now. Like, we've got to give them this. So we're going to give away like a Zoom code, and people can come in. We'll do a Q&A at some point as well. And we're aiming to get a few special guests at the moment. Roger Langridge is going to come on. We've got that confirmed. We're going to try and maybe pick out 1 or 2 more names. But it'll be a really fun 2 hours. I mean, the Skrulls, we like a laugh, so hopefully, that will be a bit of a thing. And then also we're going to do like an audio commentary track of going through the comic, so that people can download once the comic is out there. So that's the plan.
That is the cherry on top of the sundae of reasons to back this comic and to read this comic. And so this episode is going to go out on Wednesday, and so that won't leave a lot of time, Capers, for you to back this, unless you guys.
It finishes Thursday at noon.
But in all seriousness, Podcapers' seal of approval all over this. Go and get it, Capers.
Oh, cheers, dude.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
That means a lot, dude.
Not at all. And it's just, I'm just looking at the artwork, listening to you guys. I am honestly blown away by this. This is one of those things. Like, there are good stories, there are bad stories, but then there are important stories. And based on what you're saying, a lot of these are good stories, but a lot of them are quite important. And I think just what you guys are doing is important beyond the charity work, beyond contributing. A lot of the stories you're telling and the way you're telling it is something that, again, it's not harkening back to something that's been done before. It's about bringing that thing forward. It's about moving forward while just going along a different route,
I think so. I mean, I hope that's what we're kind of trying to convey. I think comics are in a really precarious situation. I don't mean precarious as though like comics are in danger of no longer being comics. Like, forget all that guff. Comics are here. They're here to stay. They ain't going anywhere. But the current commercial models that have been established and in practice in place for the last 30 years, they may go. But comics ain't going anywhere. And so, we're trying to explore different ways of disseminating comics, and how can it be done? Can it be done better this way, or can we do it this way? Or it's an experiment. It's a risk. That SKRAWL is a risk, and we hope that people want to take that risk.
But here's the thing: it's a risk very much worth taking, in my opinion. I really mean that.
Well, thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
And
thanks,
on
Steve.
that note, I think we're going to end the show. Thank you very much, Russell and Sock, for joining me today.
Pleasure, man. Pleasure. Anytime. Thanks for having us.
Not at all.
Yeah, thank you.
And if you enjoyed the show, Capers, please tell your friends. Shout it from the rooftops. And if you haven't already, go back and listen to some of the other super episodes, like our quarantine episode with John Thomas. Check that out. And you can listen to the show on iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, or at podcapers.com. If you want to get in touch with us, suggest show topics, or maybe come on the show yourself, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AP2HYC. Thank you very much to Darren Harris for our logo, the lovely microphone with red and blue 3D glasses. Those are mine. And thank you for listening. This has been Podcapers, the official podcast for a place to hang your cape. Cue the music!